Chapter 10. Here I want to deal with endgames with more pieces sorted by material. I want to start with king, with rook and knight against rook and knight. And with this rook and minor piece against rook and minor piece business, I also include examples where both sides have two rooks, so with 4 rooks on the board. Of course, they are a bit different. There's more attacking potential on the board, more winning potential. The simplification to a double rook ending is still possible, and so on and so on and so on. But nevertheless, I think there are enough similarities, and I can deal with the question of the right rook exchange in more detail. So I've decided to do it that way. I think the most important guideline here is light initiative weighs heavily. For example, if in this position the knights would be taken off the board, then the double rook ending could be safely agreed drawn immediately. With this symmetrical position and black to move. Come on. But here with the knights, it should still be drawn if in correspondence chess or with computer fans. But over the board, white's initiative is very annoying. I think that rook f8, rook c8 is the best move. It's also the main line, but still not so easy. For example, in the famous classic Smyslov-Banco, here Paul Banco, the well-known Hungarian-American endgame expert and big legend, of course, of the endgame, missed the difficult move knight b2 to activate the knight more, and then the computer still thinks it is tenable, and black can probably defend. In the game, after rook d2, white should now be winning. Now white's initiative weighs too heavily. Black has 3 weaknesses, white has a king attack, and black's knight is sidelined. All these small advantages end up to a winning advantage. And here the point of Smyslov's attack was king f1. And if the rook moves away, then white can close the mating net. And of course, this is also one of the reasons why in practical play the attacker has good winning chances. If rook and knight coordinate well, then they can be an extremely powerful attacking duo like in this position. While if they lose coordination or the knight is permanently passive, then it can be very, very difficult to deal with the problem and to regain harmony and coordination. And here black's knight is sidelined and the pieces have lost their coordination, and so white wins. In the game, Banco sacrificed, but of course here the guideline that the rook is too strong for the bishop and f or the knight in a fight on 2 wings is valid. White's b4 pawn is worth a lot, and white is winning, and Smyslov converted easily. Okay. Yeah, so a6 I think is playable, but it's already a slight inaccuracy. White's initiative grows and grows. And Andersen is a very strong player for this type of position. Black has no real counterplay, and he can press on forever. And he has a very good feeling for this kind of business. What now? How did Andersen proceed? g4. This is very strong. It opens a road for the king and potentially to open the second wing in the long run. This all is very long run coordinations, but here g4 should be played. And g5 is possible to undermine black's central pawn structure. So this is a very strong typical move. Yeah, here I think this is a mistake, and somewhere here around here it now completely turns, and white then is winning, theoretically winning. But I don't know exactly at which position, but it's already extremely unpleasant over the board, of course. This the knight b8 is not playing, and white has so many options. Okay, of course, now the second rook should be introduced into the attack. And this is another inaccuracy. Okay, which rook to exchange? The a7 rook or the d6 rook? Okay, if asked that way, it again becomes very easy. Of course, another good guideline is exchange the active pieces of the opponent, and here especially exchange active rooks, so that Black only remains with passive pieces. What now? Which piece now should come? Yeah, okay, the knight. The knight can be improved. Here it is making more pressure. What now? b4. Really take away all the squares from the opponent's knight if possible, and such moves also have a very strong psychological impact. Your opponent takes away all your squares and all the life from your position, and you cannot do anything for real, and most humans cannot deal with such kind of pressure very well. And you must be a computer to defend this kind of position well, I think. Most humans will crack sooner or later under such pressure. This is another reason why the drawish margin in endgames with Rook and Knight against Rook and Knight is much smaller than in pure Rook endings, especially if the defending Knight is more or less doomed to pure passivity in the long run. If there's no activity in the position like here, you cannot defend. In some moment there will be a road opened. Now finally Andersen's king comes, the plan introduced into the position with the 20th move g4. Okay, and here I think now it must be lost anyway, but opening the king side for white makes it very easy. Yeah, this is a typical mistake. You shouldn't play on the wing you shouldn't open the wing which the opponent wants to open. And now, okay, king h4 wins, but I like Andersen's move even more. All pieces should be passive first, and then his king invades, and Karl Roberts resigned. It would be better to take, but here white could open the king side as well, and then his large advantage in activity must tell sooner or later, for example. Yeah, it must win somehow. Black has too many weaknesses. Maybe the a-pawn could also be considered a weakness, and not enough active counterplay to show for all the weaknesses. And, white wins. Yeah, a really impressive performance by the great Swede Ulf Andersson. I especially like his move g4, which serves many purposes. He is usually very careful with his pawn moves, but especially here in the game, when he moved the pawns, they were really powerful, showing Roberts that Andersen has strong active options added to his position. Here by g4 to invade with the king or to undermine the pawns, both long-term plans. And then I especially like Rook c6 to exchange Black's active Rook, so that Black only remains with passive pieces. That's of course always good. Yeah, especially if the Rook cannot be activated. Yeah, and then here also the knight, and both pieces do not like passivity at all. And yeah, finally here his move b4 to take away the c5 square from Black's knight. As said, this is very difficult for most humans psychologically. All squares are taken away from you and you can do essentially nothing. So I think the best guideline for the endgame Rook and Knight against Rook and Knight is that the light initiative weighs heavily. And of course activity often is the order of the day. The Rook or Knight should be activated, and such purely passive setups should be avoided. As usually the attacker will find a way to find a second weakness, to open a second wing, or here to introduce his king and then to win. It must be won here. Yeah, what was the last chance? Here at least Rook a7 is a bit more active, but still I agree that the setup is not so. Yeah. But at least it is a bit more active than black's position in the game was.